Hi guys. Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning in here today. Thank you for being here now with me. This video is going to be a review of Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, which I just finished reading this morning for the third time. Um, I listened to it first. So I first listened to it in the fall of 2022. We're now in the winter of 2024. So it's a little over 2 years since I began this journey. And it is a journey. Not to be cliche, but yeah, I mean, in this video, I'm not going to get too into all the different ideas that are presented in the book or um, try and analyze it too much. I'm just going to kind of give a brief overview of what I think some of the main purpose of it is. Um, so Gurdjieff, you know, he was a master, but in his life, one of the jobs he had was he was a hypnotist. So besides understanding hypnosis very deeply, he obviously, understood human psychology very deeply. He understood our machinations and how, you know, the thinking center, the feeling center, the moving center, how they all work independently and together. And I think in this book, in Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, it's written in a deliberate manner. That's one of the things that first stuck out to me about this book. It's different than any other book in the cadence. Even if you read the meat of the book, that is the story with Hussein Beelzebub on the ship, the cadence and the sentence structure are different in the book than um, in the opening chapter and in the last chapter when it's again Gurdjieff writing. It's a different cadence in his writing. I think the cadence in the actual story is a form of is actively and consciously perpetuated in that manner to act on the subconscious of the sincere reader. And I say sincere reader because I think this book needs to be approached with a sincerity and a humbleness. I think this book acts as a filter, honestly. I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe read in search of the miraculous and they're attracted to these ideas, but this book's hard to get through. A lot of people pick it up, I would assume, and put it right down because it is work. You have to actively engage with it. You have to engage your mind. You have to really work at it. Um, but to get back to what I was saying, I do believe that if you approach this book sincerely and you read it actively, if you work at it, it does work on the being of the sincere reader through the subconscious mind. That is my belief. That I believe that Gurdjieff purposely, um, wrote this book in that manner to work on the subconscious mind of the sincere reader, to bring about a change in being. Um, and I think it's a magical book. I think it's it's composed and written from a higher um, plane of existence than normal three brain beings. Man, man number one, two, or three. This book is coming from a higher influence. It's it's beyond the normal mentation of the earth currently. Probably why it's not popular and maybe never will be, because it's not for the masses. It's not, especially these days. People don't want something like this, 1,238 pages in this version, to be read thrice over. They want a TikTok reel that's going to make them laugh or, um, enjoy the moment. Um, but it's a balance. But anyway, yeah, I do think this is a magical book that works on the being of the reader. Um, I can say for me, it's had a profound effect in my life. Um, you know, it's 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 a special book, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Gurdjieff for putting this book together. I'm grateful for his conscious labors and intentional sufferings that he went through to put this together, to give it to us today, now, to still have this. After his automobile accident, prior to that, he had the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man. In the following year, he was planning to open, I think he says, 18 more institutes throughout the world. And the automobile accident he had between Paris and Fontainebleau changed everything. It changed the direction, the course of his further work. And that's why we have this book, because he wasn't able to maintain physically the required intensity of work on all levels to keep the institute going and to keep growing it. So he changed his method of teaching to this, I believe, and that's why we have this today. And yes, I'm grateful for Mr. Gurdjieff for his teaching. I hope that he can feel my emanations of gratitude, and that if you also have gotten something from his teaching, I hope that you send him some emanations of your gratitude or whatever sentiment you have towards him, because that's important. So I'm going to read one passage here. This is from the author at the very end. This is at the part where he's talking about the two streams. So as we know, normal man as he is born and dies, and from dust we come, to dust we return. And there's two rivers. There's one river that flows out into the ocean, and there's another river that flows into the crevices and flows back into the earth and has become steam or is dispersed upon the earth. That river that flows into the ocean, at certain times there's cyclones or tornadoes or other things which can raise certain droplets up to a higher level of being, of evolving spiritually. And that's what we want to be. We want to be in that river that's flowing out into the ocean. And we all serve nature. Through all our emanations, we're on this planet. We're sustenance for the moon and Anulios and other higher orders in the universe, which probably are beyond our comprehension, at least mine. But concomitantly with that, we have the opportunity through our work, through our conscious labors and intentional sufferings, of creating something in this life that can withstand after death, and is our chance at a permanence, at surviving death, really, and continuing on in a permanent vessel for further evolution. As I said earlier, as the droplet in the ocean that can spiral up via another opportune moment. So the splitting of the waters, Gurdjieff says, occurs when we become ready for responsible being, which is what he says. And there's some people who are already in that river that's going into the ocean, whether it's from pure luck, pure chance, or other factors. They're blessed, and they're already born into this life with a being that sets them up perfectly for, creating that Gurdjieff body and everything that's gonna, carry them on through past death. But for most of us, we're not. We're born into a normal family, and we're born into, probably a exoteric religion, which has its value. I'm not against exoteric religion. I think they're beautiful, and they have a lot of truth in them, and they're layered like anything, and the truth is within them as well. But with Gurdjieff's teaching, I think we can go a bit deeper, and we can, I think Maurice Nicoll said, in the Bible we have the what, but in the fourth way we have the how. And I've always really liked that, and I think that it does, Gurdjieff's methods do connect. They're practical, and they're here and now, and they make sense with the work we have to do now and where we're going. But back to the two rivers. Sorry, I know sometimes I meander, but if you're still with me, so branching of the waters is when we become responsible beings. And there's the one river that's going to flow into the ocean with chance for higher evolution, and the other that's simply destroyed after death. In this last passage I'm going to read, Gurdjieff talks about how, because he's giving this talk to people who are already past that point of becoming responsible beings. So they're already responsible beings. But he says to not be disheartened and not become pessimistic, because we still have a chance to get over into that other river, the one that, you know, has a future for us in it. And so I'm going to read this now. To cross into the other stream is not so easy, merely to wish and you cross. For this it is first of all necessary consciously to crystallize in yourself data for engendering in your common presences a constant unquenchable impulse of desire for such a crossing, and then afterwards, after a long corresponding preparation. For this crossing it is necessary first of all to renounce all the what seem to you blessings, but which are in reality automatically and slavishly acquired habits present in this stream of life. In other words, it is necessary to become dead to what has become for you your ordinary life. It is just this death that is spoken in all religions. It is defined in the saying which has reached us from remote antiquity: without death, no resurrection. That is to say, if you do not die, you will not be resurrected. The death referred to is not the death of the body, since for such a death there is no need of resurrection. For if there is a soul, and moreover an immortal soul, it can dispense with a resurrection of the body. Nor is the necessity of resurrection our appearance before the awful judgment of the Lord God, as we have been taught by the fathers of the church. No, even Jesus Christ and all the other prophets sent from above spoke of the death which might occur even during life, that is to say, of the death of that tyrant from whom proceeds our slavery in this life, and slowly from the liberation from which depends the first chief liberation of man. So I think that's what this book is meant to do. To put it in sort of alchemical terms, you have the Negredo, or another term for it is the dark night of the soul, where you go through a period of painful suffering, of perhaps seeing things outside of yourself, feeling things outside of yourself, which priorly didn't exist in your reality, in a dissolving of the ego, but of that, not a healthy ego, not a healthy ego, but that tyrant, as Gurdjieff says there. So, perhaps the ego connected with the Kunda buffer, the ego that defends us from taking responsibility for everything in our life, for all the circumstances that we find ourselves in, all our emanations. It's a lot easier to deflect and project and look outwards and say, oh, this happened to me because of that person, or I'm this way because of X, Y, and Z. That feels better to the ego to do that. But I think if instead of that we look at every situation in our lives and say how are my emanations contributing to this, taking ownership of everything in our lives, and then through that painful process being almost reborn in a way with a different ego, not that same everything point at you ego, but in alchemy again they I believe it's called the red lion. So it's rather than being the center of the person, it's serving the I. It's the ego that's serving the I, and it's still very, very important. I'm not one of these people who believe, oh, we need to kill the ego, like in that really sort of New Age thing, or I don't know if it's within Buddhism or Eastern teachings, but I believe, it's the ego is important. And I'm gonna read one more thing here, if I can find it. Yeah, this is from the same chapter. Um, this is after he's saying, about, you know, through this book creating such a compromise, I think, is possible if certain people consciously set themselves as the chief aim of their existence to acquire in their presences all the corresponding data to become masters among those around them similar to themselves, proceeding from this and acting according to the wise sayings of ancient times, affirming that, in order to be in reality a just and good altruist, it is inevitably required, first of all, to be an out and out egoist. So I mean, that's saying right there, to really care about other people, you need to have an ego, but a healthy one, not one that can't take criticism, that can't take accountability, that can't take, all those sort of things. So yeah, I think in the sincere reader and someone who takes this book very, who really works at it, it can it can start to do that, and that's why in the first chapter there's a warning. He's not joking around when he gives that warning in the first chapter. I mean, I've never come across another book where the author is in the first chapter it's a warning. So it's because that can be very painful to go through that and to look at yourself very deeply and to work to take ownership over your life. It's painful. Um, and I think that that's what this book does on some levels. You know, subconsciously it's gonna work. It's gonna work to bring your subconscious off the back burner towards more towards the forefront for you to work through the issues of your life in order to grow. So anyway, enough of my blabbering. Yeah, it um, what else is there to say? It's a fantastic book. Um, I would even say it's a work of art. It's not just a novel, although it is a novel in a way. But yeah, again, very grateful to Mr. Gurdjieff for this work, and if you have gotten something from it as well, please keep him in mind and send your sentiments his way. So, all right, guys. Christmas is right around the corner, so Merry Christmas to you. I hope you have a very nice holiday season and winter. And yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to my ramblings. I do enjoy when you guys give me feedback, because it's good for me to get your impressions and perspectives as well. I always enjoy reading them. So thank you again. Thank you for listening, and have a good one.